Yo, what is going on everyone? Guiding Light here, and in this video, we're going to be taking on the Viper boss fight in the brand new game Fist Berserker Khazan. So there are a bunch of things that you can do to honestly make this boss fight quite a bit easier, so I'm going to go through all of them very quickly in this video. Now I have to be honest, this boss fight was very difficult for me to beat, and I honestly think I was stuck on it for about 8 hours before finally getting through it, but I genuinely think that was just due to my lack of knowledge on the game, and so that's why I want to bring you guys some tips and tricks to hopefully make this much easier for you. Now, in this boss fight, guys, the main thing that you guys are going to want to do is take a defensive approach. It's extremely difficult to deal damage to this boss, and there's only going to be very small times where you can even really do damage. So you just need to be focused on being more so defensive. Now, before we get into the guide, I want to show you guys what gear I was running and to give you guys a few tips and tricks on what it is you want to equip, because I think that's honestly the biggest part of this boss. So here's a quick look at all of the gear that I had on and the weapons. I chose to go in with a long sword or the great sword because in my opinion, it just made for a better playstyle, and I like the amount of stamina you remain with after swinging. You don't really go through it very quickly. So I would suggest using the greatsword, but you can use whichever you want. So here's another quick look at all of my gear and things. Now, the most important part, in my opinion, is to go into your inventory and try to equip as many of these little buffs as you can. Now, these items called the soul tier dust are actually going to give you guys health. So you're only going to have 4 health regens before getting into this boss fight. Now, some of you only may have 3 health regens, but I'm going to be making a guide on how it is you can actually get a 4th health regen before even going into this boss fight, which is probably going to make it a lot easier too. But if you do have those soul tiers on, they actually help quite a bit. I think I was actually left with multiple heals left by the end of the fight. So here's a quick look at my skill tree. You can actually unslot all your points and just put them into the greatsword, and also make sure you come in here to common counterattacks and buy the first upgrade, because what that will do is make it so that every time you hit a perfect parry, it's actually going to deal damage for you. So that's actually an extremely good upgrade, not only for the boss, but just for every fight in the game. Now, very quickly, guys, let's go ahead and get into this boss fight. I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks and the combos that I used in order to actually take this guy down and still have quite a bit of health remaining at the end. So as you can see here, when getting into the fight, I'm going to be taking an extremely defensive approach, trying to be getting as many perfect parries in as I can. Now, if you've done the boss enough times, you'll notice that there are a few little openings that the boss will leave you to deal damage, but they are very small. So what you want to do is learn the boss's combos. He's usually going to attack in waves of 3, but in between those hits, he's going to be pretty drained out of stamina, and you can go ahead and get a few swings in during that time. Now, another thing you want to keep track of is your own stamina bar, because that stamina bar, once it's empty, it's going to make it hard to even deal hits, and you can't block either. Now, another big tip I can give you guys is whenever you do go in for an attack, make sure it is a heavy attack. Hold down the button for a few seconds until it's charged up all the way, and then try to hit the boss. Because if you only hit him with a standard attack, it only does about 400 damage, which is really not enough to take him down quickly. But if you get him with the heavy attack, it'll do over 1,000 damage at a time, which is much better and get through the fight much easier. You don't have to block anywhere near as many attacks. Now, there's also going to be a few undodgeable attacks. You'll have to learn those and just simply dodge out of them with X. But what you really want to be on the lookout for is when the boss leaves you the opening to go in for a finishing move. Now, what this will give you guys is actually about a 5-second interval where you can do as much damage, you can get as many attacks in as you want, and the boss won't do anything about it. Now, what you just have to make sure to do is right before the icon goes away for you to go in for that finisher, you want to just make sure to hit the finisher button, and this will allow you guys to get that last finishing move off before it goes away. But before going in for your finisher, what you want to do is hit him with as many heavy attacks as you can, and maybe even hit him with a few of your abilities as well. Now, after you use your finisher, you can actually stack one more attack in with the finishing move, and you'll notice I get about 8,000 damage off just during this small period. So that's really crucial, I think, in order to getting the boss fight completed, because in the second phase of this boss, it's actually going to get pretty crazy, and I think that was a big help for me to get through it. Now, the final tip that I can give you guys is to level up your stamina and your full overall health bar. You can do this many different ways in the skill tree of the game, and you're going to need to collect souls or lacrima in order to actually level up your stats. So if you find yourself to be extremely under leveled, you will want to go back into previous areas, farm up some lacrima or farm up some souls, and then go into your skill tree or go back into your rift and actually level up your stats. So here's a quick look at all of my stats. Now, you do not need to have the exact same stats as me, and keep in mind, once you buy stats, you actually cannot undo it. So you're gonna honestly be kind of stuck on whatever build you chose to make at the beginning of the game. But what I can tell you is that it is a big help to increase your overall health bar and your stamina. Now, guys, this is really insane. It took me a pretty long time to beat the first phase of the boss, but there's actually a second phase to the boss, which you will have to take down. So what you want to do is make sure that you try to only use 2 heals during the first section of the boss, and then go ahead and use 2 more heals during the second phase. Now, I struggled quite a bit with this until equipping the Soul Tier Dust. Those are those additional health healing items you get in your inventory. Now, I had 17 of them when I started and only 14 left by the end of the fight, but I was able to beat it on literally my first try after using these additional healing items because I was already so used to only having 4 heals throughout the entire fight. Now, because these don't replenish and you can only pick them up from the real world, I would suggest not tearing through all of them because there is a chance you're going to need some more in the future. So maybe learn the boss, do a couple test runs first before really going all out with using those heals, because you may not be able to get them back later and you might want to have them for additional boss fights. So that's about it for this one, guys. I'll let the rest of the boss fight play out. Hopefully this tips and tricks help you guys. I'll be making a ton more guides for this game over the time it takes me to beat it. So hopefully this helps, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.